Greetings, my virtual students. Today you will be working with goals and objectives within the context of instructional design. First, the goal for this lesson is that you will write an instructional goal and objectives that will lead the learner to a specific goal for one lesson. The objectives that will get you to reach that goal are: you will be able to define the terms goal and objective with 95% accuracy. You will recognize the difference between a goal and an objective with 95% accuracy. Given examples, you will compare effective versus non-effective goals and objectives with 85% accuracy. Finally, you will complete an analysis of one lesson to determine the goal and objectives with 85% accuracy. So what is an instructional goal? Goals are broad, generalized statements about what is to be learned. Think of them as a target to be reached or to be hit. What is an objective? Objectives are the foundation upon which you can build lessons and assessments that you can prove meet your overall course or lesson goals. Think of objectives as tools you use to make sure you reach your goals. They are the arrows you shoot towards the target or goal. Here's an example of a goal for a lesson in writing. The goal is to have the students write a thesis statement for an argument essay. The objectives that will get the student to that goal is to first describe the purpose of a thesis statement, then analyze the components of a thesis statement, and then finally write a thesis statement given criteria for an essay. Why are goals and objectives important? Stating clear course goals and objectives are important because they provide you with a solid foundation for designing relevant activities and assessments. Activities, assessments, and grading should be based on the objectives. As you develop a learning object, course, a lesson, or a learning activity, you have to determine what you want the students to learn and how you will know that they learned. Instructional objectives are requirements for a highly developed of instruction. They help you identify critical and non-critical instructional elements. They help remove your subjectivity from the instruction. They help you design a series of interrelated instructional topics. And students will better understand expectations and the link between expectations, teaching, and grading. So now that you know what a goal is and how objectives lead to the overall goal, how do you write one? An instructional goal should be a single statement that contains an active verb about what the end result should be for the student at the end of the lesson, module, or unit. For example, at the end of the instruction, I want my students to write a thesis statement for their own argument essay. This goal uses the active verb write because that is what my students will do. The goal also includes the result in the thesis statement. Then you move on to how the students will get to that particular goal. This is where the objectives come into play. Let's stick with the same goal example of writing a thesis statement. For your instructional goal objectives, you should specify four main things. The audience, the who is this aimed at? The behavior, this is the what do you expect them to be able to do? This should be an overt, observable behavior that if the actual behavior is covert or mental in nature, if you can't see it, hear it, touch it, taste it, or smell it, you can't be sure your audience really learned it. Condition, this is the how. Under what circumstances will the learning occur? What will the student be given or already be expected to know to accomplish the learning? Degree is the how much. This must a specific set of criteria be met. Do you want total mastery, 100%? Do you want them to respond correctly 80% of the time? A common and totally non-scientific setting is 80% of the time. This is often called the ABC of objectives. Thus, I say to myself, do students know what a thesis statement is and what it does? So that would be my first objective. So for our example, the audience is my students, grade 10. The behavior is to describe a thesis statement. The condition is after reading and instruction of a thesis statement, and the degree would be with 100% accuracy. Thus, my objective is, after reading and instruction, students will describe the purpose of a thesis statement with 100% accuracy. Instructional's objective should be SMART. Specific. Use the ABCs to create a clear and concise objective. Measurable. Write the objective so that anyone can observe the learner perform desired action and objectively assess the performance. Achievable. Make sure the learner can do what is required. Don't, for example, ask the learner to perform complex actions if they are a beginner in an area. Relevant. Demonstrate value to the learner. Don't teach material that won't be used or on which you will not assess. Timely or time-bound. Ensure the performance will be used soon, not a year from now. Also, include any necessary time constraints, such as completing a task in 10 minutes or less. While I may be done with one objective, this particular one does not get me to the overall goal. There are more steps that students must do in order to write their own thesis statement. Therefore, I would continue to go through this process for each objective that will ultimately lead me to my goal of my lesson, which is to write the thesis statement. Now it's your turn. First, you will want to focus on a lesson or unit. Then look at your goal. Do you have one? If not, analyze the lesson or the unit to determine your end game. If you have a goal, does it meet the requirements demonstrated in this video? If not, go back and revise. If so, good for you. Now go on and look at your objectives. You don't have any? Well, now you have the tools to create them. If you find you do have objectives, do they utilize the ABCs of objective writing? If not, go back and revise. Continue your instructional design by focusing your initial efforts on your goals and objectives. This will solidify the overarching design and focus of your instruction.